Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who are here with us. This is FPL Under the Radar. This is our third international break data review. We are back up after a little bit of hiatus. I think the last time we were here together was for the second international break. We were reviewing data from game week 1 to 8. Of course, all of us were busy with other things a little bit here and there, but we thought that we did a lot of work during this international break that we wanted to review with all of you. Some of our data actually has been reviewed in the APL Wire, Scoutcast, etc. So we appreciate the community's help with all of our work support, so supporting all of our work. But yeah, we are back with my buddies here, ZD and Wrangler. How are you doing, ZD? Enjoying the international break?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yep, it is kind of slow in international um, break, but luckily this is the last one, and after that is lots of games coming, which is an exciting time for if PL enthusiastic, right? So, yeah, pretty excited about it.
Right. Wrangler, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Tell us how's your trip going?
Not bad, not bad. I mean, it feels pretty long. I travel to Bangladesh, so it feels like even longer for me. But yeah,
I see that
enjoying the
you have
break.
been posting a lot of food picture, so you are enjoying all the foods. Looks like.
Yeah, always good to be back home. So yeah, absolutely enjoying.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get started with the content. We have a lot of things to talk about. Uh, Wrangler, you are running the slides. If you want to go to the slides. So yeah, so we have a few things to first talk about. We were thinking about it ourselves as well. Most of the people who follow us, you know that for a lot of our data review, we have been using data from last season's game week 17 up to now, because it gives us a bigger data sample for team performance and so on. But at the same time, it's important to look at this season's data in isolation to understand if there is any change in trend for teams data. Of course, transfer season, new players, new coaches in some places. So it's important to make sure that we also look at the potential trend changes in teams attacking or defensive data, right? So that's what we have done here. So the first one is basically the home expected goal data from last season versus this season. So the next few slides are all going to be in the same theme. X-axis is basically the average data from last season's game week 17 to game week 38. So that's basically post World Cup. And then the y-axis is going to be this season's game week 1 to 12 average data. So what's evident here is, of course, one of the teams that really stands out here is Aston Villa. At home, they really look like a force to reckon with, right? I mean, we have seen them literally bulldozing some of the weaker teams, even the mid-table teams, right? They really are strong against almost any team at home. So that's something that we really need to understand with respect to last season, that they have improved at home as an attacking force. Elsewhere, Liverpool, they're always good at home. This season, they look even better. And then from a performance degradation standpoint, some of the teams that really stand out are Arsenal, Brighton, and the Manchester clubs, Manchester City and Man United. City is kind of a surprise, right? I mean, of course, City in general are doing good, still at the top of the table and so on. But generally speaking, at home, they are not creating as much, right? Without Kevin De Bruyne, without Gundogan, right? So they're at home, they're not necessarily creating as many chances, right, as we are generally used to. Same thing for Manchester United, right? They haven't looked as strong this season at home. Uh, Early in the season, they were at least creating chances, but in the last few games, we have seen them significantly being degraded from an attacking perspective. And also Brighton and Arsenal, right? Arsenal probably not as bad, but Brighton has not looked really that strong with a lot of injuries, right, throughout the season. This in the first few game weeks, uh, they are not creating as many. They're still pretty good, still one of the best attacking teams in the league, but not as good as we were seeing them last season, right? Especially at home. They were literally like absolutely destroying teams, right? But this season, not as much. So that's basically the takeaway, right? At least at home, Villa, significantly better team this year. Manchester clubs and Brighton, not so much. Anything to add, Wrangler or ZD?
I think we should talk about Chelsea, Everton, and Spurs as well, right? So last season's data, if you compare, for Chelsea under, Pochettino, it improved significantly, right? Although they couldn't convert a lot of chances, but underlying data was there. And Sean Dyche's Everton and Ange's Spurs, right? Those teams are really doing good. We see that, and I think underlying wise also it looks they improved. So I think those are the three teams also probably we should mention here.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the next one, the away XG one. Okay. This one is also pretty similar for most teams, but I mean, from with respect to last season's data, significant improvement is Chelsea. As Wrangler also just mentioned, of course, at home they have improved. And it's a little inflated probably by the Tottenham game as well, and also the Man City in the last two games specifically. But in general, Chelsea have looked good, right? From an attacking perspective. And Kunku will be back soon, right? Hopefully, sometime after the international break. They will only get better, if anything. So that's something that we have to take, uh, at least kind of relearn, realign ourselves with respect to last season's data for Chelsea. They are an improved team this year, right? Pochettino, we all know he has done well in the past with Tottenham in the Premier League. We expect similar things from him with Chelsea as well. So yeah, we just have to think of Chelsea as a better attacking force this season. We have also, of course, looked at, and we will talk about some of it. Chelsea missing a lot of chances earlier in the season. Jackson and other side, Jackson, Enzo Fernandez, and so significantly underperforming what we all expect when Nkunku is back, when they have a better striker. And I mean, Jackson also did score a hat trick like a couple of weeks ago, right? So it's not like that he's not scoring goals. So, but all in all, I think Chelsea is improving as a team overall from an attacking perspective. Man City actually looks better away this season with respect to they are looking at home, right? So that's a little bit surprising as well. Historically, City does better at home generally. And again, it's hard to explain why is that, but in general, they are looking more open, more attacking, more aggressive away from home this season. Elsewhere, maybe not as much. Brentford, maybe something that we can talk about. Looks good again away from home. We all thought that without Ivan Tony, they wouldn't be as good, but with Mbeumo, with Jensen, with Wisa, all kind of ticking in, they have looked like a pretty good team, right? Of course, it's still mid-table team, but for a mid-table team, they're better than most. So, yeah, that's basically it. Anything to add, ZD, with respect to the uh, XG data?
No, I mean, probably it shows that this season clean sheets are hardly to get because people usually in away games, when home team keeps CS or those things. But seems like this season, with the high XG, we are seeing lots of goals as well. So, yeah, I mean, like United is not that good, which we all know. But other than that, most of the teams, if you see, are like on is doing it has improved. So, yep, I agree. What did you what you said?
Okay, all right. Next slide. Okay, this one is the defensive data, home defensive data. Significant improvement, I would say, are Everton and Forest. Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. We of course expect them to be good. Everton and Forest have kind of stood out, right? I mean, we don't see them as good defensive forces in general. They were actually teams that we were targeting last season, right? Most of the time, but at least at home, they look like pretty solid defenses. Everton's XGC is at around 1 at home, right? Which is very, very good. Same for Villa as well. But Villa we kind of knew about, right? But Everton is kind of the outstanding team this year, and also Forest, right? So they are not the team that we can expect other teams to completely demolish anymore, right? Especially at home, they are pretty solid. They look like keeping clean sheets a lot of time as well. So that's something that we have to relearn this season as well from a defensive standpoint. Elsewhere, I mean, defensively, from a degradation standpoint, again, Man United kind of stands out. Not as nearly as good defensive data that they had at home last season. They were really, really solid last season, right? At home, De Gea actually won the award for most clean sheets last season, and most of those clean sheets came at home. But this season, they are not looking as good. Kind of very mediocre performance from a defensive perspective. Of course, again, a lot of injuries. Varane was injured, Martinez was injured, Shaw was injured, right? So not an ideal situation for them. But in general, they're not looking like that good of a defensive force. Like even Casemiro, right? His performance has deteriorated. But yeah, what do you think, Wrangler, in general about Man United's defensive data and overall?
I mean, overall, actually, as you can see, right, Man United and the Brighton are the two teams which are both attacking and defensively struggling, right? So it's just like, um, somehow they are not creating as many chances that they were creating last season. So I mean, first of all, like, yeah, definitely they are not getting able to convert, right? But we can see here as well, even their underlying is not up to the mark too, right? Which is really concerning. So we just have to hope that those players like with Rasmus Højlund and Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, these are the three main players, can tick along. And also defensively, I think like we don't have Casemiro yet, and there are lots of injuries going on too, right? I mean, in our defense, like Luke Shaw is not there, right? So there are several injuries going on, and there are some situation going with Varane, and I mean, you all know that, right? With between Varane and Ten Hag. So we have to figure those out, all of those, and then we can just hope that things will go better from now on. But again, overall, it's not really looking very impressive. One thing I'd like to just mention about Forest, that they didn't lose in last 8 home PL games, right? I think the last time they lost last season, like around in March or April-ish in that time. So as you mentioned, right, and it shows in the data as well. Forest at home is really doing good. Even teams like Villa, right, who are demolishing even all the mid-table teams or even like weaker teams completely, but they couldn't do it at Forest, right? So that just shows Forest is really good, and we cannot right just kind of just write it off that okay, Forest is a weak team. We cannot do that. So yeah, otherwise I think overall data shows whatever we're seeing in the eyes. So
Okay. Let's take a quick look at the away XGC as well. Surprisingly, most teams have look like they have improved away from home defensively, right? And again, I mean, it's only 12 weeks of data, so it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. But it just seems like teams are a little more pragmatic away from home, trying to hold their guard and so on, right? So, like about 12, 13 teams out of all the 20 teams are actually improving from a defensive perspective away from home. But again, take that with a little bit of salt. But yeah, in general, Arsenal again stands out, right? From at home and away, their defense looks really, really solid, right? I mean, of course, Shaka left the club, but Odegaard hasn't been fit. Partey hasn't been fit for a whole lot of time. But despite all that, in general, Arsenal defensively still looks like a very solid side. And as we kind of saw, like they're a little more pragmatic this season, not creating as much up front, right, from an XG standpoint. But defensively, their defensive data shows that they are a force to reckon with. Still, pretty much top of the league from a defensive perspective. So yeah, that I mean, there is a reason that we were all buying the likes of Gabriel, Saliba, Zinchenko for our game week 8-9 wildcards. There's fixtures are also pretty good for a very long term in the future. So it makes a lot of sense to invest in their defense in general. Chelsea, another side, right, who have improved significantly defensively, not just away from home in general. Rhys James is back, right? Thiago Silva is back. Fofana is still out. But again, in general, as a defensive unit, not just from a defender standpoint, as a defensive unit, Chelsea look pretty well. But yeah, Tottenham were looking good, right, until they had all the red cards and the injuries and so on. We'll see how they cope with all that. But a lot of us FPL managers were heavily invested in Tottenham defense, right? Udogi, Poro, some even with Romero and Van de Ven. But with all the injuries and with all the red cards and so on, they, at least in the short term, they don't look as good. But again, Tottenham in general have looked good this season. Anything else that we need to talk about from a defensive data standpoint, ZD or Wrangler?
I just wanted to kind of wrap up everything, so whatever we just talked, like out of all of these four charts, right? So in general, Villa, Everton, Chelsea, and Spurs maybe, right? So they looked good. They did better than last season, both attacking and somewhat defensively as well. While Man United and Brighton looked poor, both attacking and defensively. And Arsenal look better in terms of defensively, right? They are playing more of a controlled game than creating, a lot of chances. So that's why we see in away or in, yeah, in both home and away, their defensive data look good, right? So I think that's the overall take, I guess, out of all of these four charts, right?
Yep, good summary. Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
let's move on. Okay.
All right. This one is basically another take on the talismanic plot that ZD have been doing for some time. This one was actually represented in the FPL Wire yesterday as well, so a lot of you probably have already seen this. But this basically kind of shows a summary of all the teams' expected goal accumulated and also their players' share in that XG data, right? So, kind of shows who are the players for each of the teams that are contributing most to their team's attacking data, right? And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory as well. If we look at Liverpool's data, Salah and Darwin basically constitute about 50% of their team's total expected goal data, right? So they are very, very both involved. So if you have both of them, if you are covering Liverpool very well, Liverpool's attack very well. Uh, Chelsea will talk about maybe a little later. Man City is interesting because Haaland is essentially hogging 50% of the chances, right? XG. Alvarez, we a lot of us so owned or still own in FPL, but from an XG standpoint, from a goal contribution standpoint, Haaland is just miles and miles ahead, right? And we'll just talk about like how many big chances he has missed this season as well. If not, it would have been looked even better from a overall goal contribution standpoint. But yeah, Haaland is basically just the monster in that team, right? So half of their chances go through him. Aston Villa, Watkins is the clear talisman as well, right? Even without penalties, right? If he had penalties, it would have looked even better. But even without penalties, he's just the clear talisman, so no doubt there. Newcastle is interesting, right? Their forwards, one of them looks to be always injured, right? Either Wilson or Isak. I don't think it has. There have been many game weeks this season where both of them have been fit. But when they are fit and when they start or when they are playing, they again basically similar story to Haaland, right? So together they basically constitute 50% of the total XG that Newcastle accumulates, right? So that's interesting. So whoever is fit, I think Wilson is out for about 6 weeks or so. So that does make Isak a very, very appealing option if he can stay fit, of course, right? But in general, the number nine, Newcastle number nine, is basically gold mine, right? They're always getting chances. Brentford, Mbeumo is again clear talisman, right? So no wonder there. Arsenal is interesting, right? No one kind of stands out as a clear talisman, right? Saka, Nketiah, Odegaard, even Havertz, Jesus, all of them have contributed a little bit here and there. Uh, doesn't seem like they have a clear cut talisman, right? Saka has penalties, but Odegaard has taken two. right? So it's not, and Havertz took one as well, right? So doesn't look like that Arsenal has a clear talisman, and of course we have looked at their data in general as well. It has gone down from the last season. But yeah, that's an interesting thought, right? I mean, all of us, most of us at least have Saka, but is he maybe as kind of must have this season? Probably not, right? The data doesn't suggest so. If Jesus is back, maybe we can look at other players as well, Jesus himself or Martinelli or when Odegaard is back. But yeah, I mean, at least for time being, Saka is kind of the standout option. But data kind of suggests that their data is their XG is a little kind of distributed, right? So that's that. Same thing for Brighton as well, right? No cut talisman. Pedro, Mitoma, Ferguson, Fati, March, or whenever they have played, they have kind of distributed or basically shared the XG pretty equally. Tottenham, clear cut again, right? Son is the clear talisman here. Madison not too far. Richarlison, when he has played, has got some chances, but he's now out. Son, of course, anything that Tottenham does from an attacking perspective, Son is very much involved. Everton, Doucouré, it turns out, right, and he will stand out in some of the other plots as well. But from an Everton perspective, he does get a lot of big chances, right? So he is getting a lot of big chances. So with the central defensive midfielder that we think of Doucouré as, he's not that anymore, right? He's kind of playing a more advanced role as a number nine, so not number nine, but maybe more as a number 10 kind of role. So he is in and there, right? So with Albert Lewin and as well in there. West Ham, Bowen is clear cut the talisman there, right? He's talking all the XGs. Now that Antonio is out, he'll probably play number nine in most of the games as well. Not necessarily the best thing for him, but I think at least he'll get the chances, right? In general, Man United we have spoken about. They have missed a lot of chances. Rashford, Fernandez, Holland, all of them got a lot of chances, but they missed a whole lot as well. But generally speaking, they are the ones that are involved in Man United's attack. Who else do we need to talk about? Bournemouth, right? That kind of probably stands out a little bit. Solanke, Bournemouth's fixtures upcoming are very good, and Solanke is basically hogging a lot of their big chances or a lot of their XG accumulated. Uh, at 6.4 million, he is a very, very good option, right? Again, he will come up in some of the other plots that we'll talk about, but that's something that we probably will, a lot of us will look at in the future from a Bournemouth standpoint. But yeah, but we'll look at it when ZD show talks about his talisman plot as well. He is basically involved in at least one third of Bournemouth's goal involvement, right? So that's that. But Chelsea, I kind of intentionally skipped so that we can talk about it a little bit. And of course, Palmer is cheap, right? A lot of his XG accumulated is contributed from his penalties, right? He has taken three penalties so far, right? If I'm not wrong, I
Four.
think three, yeah, or four, yeah, four penalties, yeah. So a lot of that XG is from penalties, but even so, he is very involved, right? Not just from an XG perspective, from an XA perspective as well. He looks very, very involved in that Chelsea attack. Jackson, I don't know when Nkunku will be back, how often we'll see Jackson starting, right? Palmer seems pretty nailed right now. I don't see Poch dropping him. Starling seems pretty nailed. He's back to being the old Starling, right? So I don't see Poch dropping Starling either. And he's also the senior guy, right? You don't want to just drop your senior midfielder all of a sudden. So with all that, when Nkunku is back, and you also don't want to drop the midfield three of Gallagher, Enzo, and Caicedo either, right? So that's basically five out of the six positions. So it basically looks like that Nkunku will be fighting with Jackson for that number nine role, right? So long story short, if Nkunku does come in that number nine, he nails his spot. He is going to be very popular. We all know what he can do, right? Pre-season, he kind of uh, showed us a little bit of glimpse here and there. But Nkunku is going to be very, very popular for us, all of us in FPL, right? We already see that how many chances Jackson was getting when he was playing. All of that chances are going to fall to Nkunku. That's going to be a popular go-to for a lot of us in the future. But yeah, anything else that I missed, ZD or Angler?
I think you covered it pretty well. The
Okay.
plot shows everything, and you covered it extensively. So, and thanks for creating this chart, by the way. It's good.
Yep. No
Um,
worries. Let's move on to the talisman plot, kind of connected
yeah,
discussion, right, ZD, so that ZD can run us through this. Go
right.
ahead, ZD.
Yeah, so what we have seen so far, that's like expected performance, and this is how the players performed, like how much contribution they made to the team contribution. So on the x-axis, total team contribution, like FPL goal and assist, and on the y-axis it's percent contribution. So I mean, here four quadrant as we always represent, and on the top it's good attack top contributors, and here obviously Salah topping with 29%, Watkins 28%, and Haaland is 27%. So what um, Kante was showing, Haaland uh, is actually, I mean, it also shows that Haaland is not actually overall top, right? So it's obviously connected with the, I think, our next plot, which is like big chance misses, but still he's 26%. Actually, Man City has like 62 goal plus assist, and Haaland contributed 16 of them, like top involvement. So he's a true talisman. But Salah, um, he contributed for 14 goal, like goals plus goals, and Liverpool scored, I think, 49, like have 49 contributions so far, and Watkins is still there. um, Obviously he did not have that much return like last few weeks. It's mostly like from his five goal involvement, but still he's above Haaland. And another one showed up, Bowen. He's 22%, and West Ham, they had like 40 goal plus assist. So these four are in the top contributors chart. In the decent contributors, which are good attack, so I think here Saka, Sterling, all they are like what Kante said already, like about Talisman, Sterling, Son, Darwin is there. Alvarez is little lower, but Alvarez is there as well. But Saka is there. It's mostly, I think, before his injury, he actually had very good amount of contribution, and he was in the top quadrant. But after that, like last 3 4 game weeks, it pushed him in the below quadrant. And one thing to notice here, Villa and Newcastle, they scored like they have 44 and 48 contributions, but their top talisman is Mitoma and Gordon, who are around 16 to 17%. So which shows that they, I mean, they don't have that true talismanic, because I mean, as Kante was showing, Isaac and Wilson, they share, and but mostly they are injured or sharing minutes, so they could not make this chart because of like 15% threshold. And from bad attack, so overall what Kante showed, like Solanke is topping with 32% among all the players. He is the top contributors, although Bournemouth is bad attack, but whenever they do, like Solanke contributed. So other than that, Huang, Neto, they are there. Neto is injured, so Huang is there. Mbume, so one thing to note here, Mbume is in bad attack top contributors, but I mean they had little difficult fixtures, and um, 35 uh, goal involvement for Brentford. So I mean, their fixtures are turning good from 14. So I expect probably in 2 3 game weeks or more than that, Mbeumo should move into the good attack. And obviously, he's the top contributor of that team. He contributed like almost 26%. So Mbeumo is a very good transfer in whenever like this week or next week. I mean, he's a long term buy, of course, if you follow this chart. And um, other than Ione, Edward, Tokor, and obviously they are as well. I think, yeah, that's it. Archer is in there. He involved in 20%, but the thing is, Sheffield Unit is pretty bad. They only had 15 goal plus assist from 12 games. So, I mean, um, it shows that he's probably equal to Eze or others, but it's not actually. If you check, their XG is lowest. So I mean, uh, but he's the talisman of Sheffield. Yeah, that's it. Do you guys want to add anything?
No, I think you covered it well.
I just wanted to add a few things. First of all, like in this plot, right? So the players on the top of the line, right? So those are kind of clear talisman, right?
Hmm.
So and they're very much aligned with the previous plot as well, right? Very
Hmm.
much, like most of them, right?
Yeah.
Except probably Bowen here. I mean, he performed, right? We saw players like Sochek or someone, right? Just next to Bowen, it was spread out in terms of XG, but whenever in terms of conversion, right? So Bowen was better than
Hmm.
like Sochek, so that's why you see Bowen is in the top right quadrant, right? So that's one thing. But in the players in the bottom, either they are not talisman or the the players, or it's kind of like spread out, right? The involvement, the goals are spread out in the team, and that's what we saw for the like Arsenal boys, right? So that's
Hmm.
one thing. I like to also mention, like, we talked before as well in the previous pod, like the talisman in the bad attack, the one of the advantages is that whenever they get one return, they bumped up their bonus just bumped up very quickly, right? Because in that team there are no other better options or better assets. So that's one of the advantages. And that's why Solanke actually becomes very, enticing option looking forward. Uh, Another player is Wang. I think we made a chart about, like, number of returns and blanks, and that's when actually Wang caught my eyes. He blanked only 2 games, I guess, or 2 to 3 games whenever he started. So he started 9 games, and out of nine, 6 times he gave returns, and he gave return like 8 or 9 so far, which is really impressive. I mean, he came from the bench in first few games, and then Neto got injured, and then he came. And as you can see, Huang and Neto are kind of in equal contribution, right? So definitely we don't have much of like options there right now, because especially like Palmer is doing really good. He's on penalty and he's playing for better teams, but I think Wang I mean, he actually went under the radar. I think nobody really talked about him much, but that's one shot I just wanted to talk. I
I
wanted to
think
give. So
overall, Wolves are playing very good. Before the season started, probably Wolves was not. It was like kind of easy fixture to target, but it seems like they play is actually
uh,
attacking football and their defense is good. So like Neto, Huang, they are actually playing very good as well. So I mean, they
yeah,
are a good investment with the price, I
and
think.
also like their next fixture, like they're playing Fulham in next game week, and then they're playing Burnley and Nottingham Forest at home. So which are actually good fixture. But again, I mean, I'm not saying that you buy Huang, but something to think about if someone likes differential. I think
Yep, good
that's
shot.
good. But anyways, otherwise, yeah, I think they are pretty consistent with the underlying data as well, I
Yep.
guess. Okay, let's move on. I guess. Country you want to cover here about the goals and big chances?
Yeah, I think again most of this we already have spoken about. Just a different context to kind of see how many big chances players have got. And a lot of them, the forwards especially, right, this season have been a little disappointing. Even Haaland has, right, missed about 12 big chances. If not, he would be on like 24, 25 goals by now. Watkins, another one of those, right, especially since we all bought him, him with our wild card. He doesn't seem like he wants to score goals anymore. He has missed like 12 big chances as well. He has actually scored from some of the smaller chances, right? His 6 goals. But if he had converted some of those big chances that he got, he would be on like 18 goals, right? Ridiculous. So we already spoke about Villa's data, how good they are from an attacking perspective, especially at home. But yeah, I mean that has been kind of the scenario also with the likes of Jackson and Darwin Nunez. Both of them have missed a bunch of chances, right? Has been frustrating for owners in general. Bowen also is getting a lot of big chances, right? That's very enticing for owners and for non-owners as well. One of the key targets for the upcoming fixtures. He is basically a 90-minute man, right? So he's Bowen is going to be very popular. He's already very popular, going to be even more popular. Looks like he is getting a lot of big chances this season, right? Unlike last season, so that's enticing. And then the other thing that of course stands out is kind of in the middle of the chart, Son and Hoyland, right? Uh, Son has converted almost all of his big chances. I think there are a little bit of discrepancy in data, a little bit here and there. He, I think Opta doesn't count necessarily it as a big chance, but he did miss a pretty big chance in the Chelsea game. Other than that, he has converted all of his big chances. We all know how good Son is, right? Uh, as a finisher in general, right? So that kind of shows up. Hoyland is the exact opposite, right? Of course, he has scored goals in the Champions League, but whenever it comes to the league, he has actually missed eight big chances, right? And right now, he's on zero goals. So no wonder that Man United are not scoring goals. I mean, of course, Marshall is not playing as much anymore. Hoyland is kind of their focal point, but he has not scored any goals in the league yet, right? So that kind of shows why Man United are struggling. If your main number nine is not scoring goals, getting chances and not scoring goals, right? It's not like he's not getting chances. So that kind of sticks out. Elsewhere, I think I don't think we necessarily need to talk about. We'll talk about other underlying data, etc., other options anyways elsewhere. But that's basically what kind of stands out. Haaland, Watkins, Nunez, and Jackson missing a lot of big chances, and Hoyland joining them in the recent times as well. So yeah, anything to add
And Rashford
specifically?
too. I mean, if you see Marcus Rashford, right?
Rashford too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Rashford.
just
Yeah.
Man United boys are. I mean, first of all, we saw from the like first few plots, right, that the underlying is not the great, and then even they are not getting able to convert those chances even, right? So that's
Right.
even worse, right?
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to add here, like the definition of big chance, people probably just, we say big chance, but the definition of big chance by Opta is that, like if anyone like, is, um, it's kind of one-on-one situation, like it's expected to score a goal and very moderate to low, pressure to the shooter by others. So basically, you expect that person to goal, and that's if you cannot uh, convert those, that's kind of a big chance missed, and penalties are considered as a big chance too. So
Right.
essentially, as Kante mentioned, right, Erling Haaland, he scored 13 goals, but he's also missed 13, right? So it could have been like 25 or 20, at least 20 plus goals, right? So which is huge. So yeah, I mean, he is even,
Yep.
yeah, it's not a good season for him so far at least, but again, it's very promising. So
Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
yep. Okay, so let me run through this. So basically, like here, as we talked before, right, that all the goals and big chances. So we just wanted to show like how different players, perform with respect to their underlying data, right? So we considered all of the positions like defender, mid, and forward. And along x-axis is expected FPL points per 90. So it's basically based on the underlying data, like either XG or XA, even the XCS for defenders as well, right? And also the potential bonus. And along y-axis, like how many FPL points each player's got per 90 in the last game week 1 to 12. And I'd like to give shout out to FPL data, who actually like have a website where he calculates these based on the data, underlying data, this FPL points, the calculation. So as you can see, there is a diagonal, right? Diagonal line, and those who are familiar with our charts, as you guys know, like the players below this diagonal line, they're underperformed. They underperformed, and the players above the diagonal line, they overperform, right? And even though we said like Haaland made like he basically wasted 13 big chances, right? But if you see that his performance so far is very close to underlying, right? So overall, actually, he didn't really perform that bad, right? Now, if you just add those big chances that he missed, he's gonna be like shoot up very high, right? So that's one thing. And again, the Darwin and Watkins, right? Although they miss like 10 plus big chances, right? But it's still they're overperforming, right? Which is really good. And that's kind of encouraging for the owners, right? I mean, definitely we get frustrated. What that okay, those guys didn't convert the chances, but again those players are getting chances, right? That's really very encouraging, and that's what you really want, like in a longer term, right? Salah and Mbumo, they are the top midfielders, right? Top 4 or 5 midfielders, and Salah actually the highest points right now, right? So uh, in the midfield, but still they're underperforming, right? So again, that's an encouraging sign. I mean, yeah, definitely they underperformed, so you should be slightly, the owners should be slightly kind of disappointed, but again, they are getting chances. The underlying data is good. And another place, Palmer, right? So we people kind of, some people think, you know what, okay, he got 4 penalties, so that's why, like, he got like FPL points, something like that. But actually he massively underperformed, right? Based on the at least underlying you see here, right? And again, we talked about the Man United boys, Rashford and Hoyland, massively underperformed, right? And that's why the Man United situation is not really good. Otherwise, I mean, those are the players I just wanted to highlight. Do you want to add anyone else here? Son, again, elite finisher, right? We talked about it, and he's overperforming, and he always historically does overperform, right? It's nothing new. But anyone else you want to add here? Kantar Didi?
No, I think we're good. We have few other plots, so we'll talk about players, attackers, anyways, right? So
Okay.
let's move on.
All right. So let's move on to this one. So basically, so far we talked about the data based on last game weeks, right? Like game week 1 to 12. But now, moving forward, we have a very like fixture crunch situation in next 1 month or so, right? So from game week 13 to 20, basically each team is gonna play 8 games, right? Except City and Brentford so far, because they are blanking in game week 18. They are gonna play 7, but again, there is a very good chance that they might have a double, right, in game week 20. So essentially, yeah, all the teams are playing eight games in next 1 month. So uh, 3 to 4 days at best turnaround, right, for each team, and sometimes it's even 2 days. The Reds, right? So this is a Legumene chart. You guys already probably saw on in the Twitter that he's showing here, that the colors in between is basically um, the 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 turnaround time, right, for each teams, like after each game. So between game week 13 and 14, there are several teams which are actually are of interest. They have Europe duties, right, either Champions League or like Europa or Conference. And then uh, 15 and 16. So 15 is a midweek game, right? So 14, 15, 16 is just like uh, each team playing 3 games in a week. And then between again 16 and 17, there is again Europe duties. Then 17 and 18, so there is a Carabao Cup quarterfinal between 17 and 18. So some teams are gonna play in the midweek. So like team like Chelsea or Everton, Newcastle, Liverpool, so, and West Ham as well, right? Those we we own assets from those teams, right? And they will have a midweek game in that time. And then there is, like, during Christmas time, there is always a fixture crunch. So that is that, right? So we just wanted to show like how busy it's gonna be, and in next 1 or 2 slides we're gonna show some players underlying data and how much minutes they played, right? Because minutes is gonna be very important here in the next 7 or 8 game weeks, because as you can see, the rotation can happen definitely for a lot of teams. So anything you want to add here, Kante or Zidi, in this chart, for any team or anything that caught?
No, I think you explained it well. It's just that some of the immediate fixtures, right? Game week 14, 15, 16. 15 is the first midweek game week, right? This season. That's We are potentially going to see a lot of rotation, right? Connor is saying that Liverpool potentially they play Sheffield in game week 15, right? So we may see a lot of rotation in that game. Fulham and Palace either side of it. So it's not easy to target some of these fixtures, right, with kind of differential picks that you want to go for. Uh, we are going to see that plot right next, where it'll kind of be even more significant to pick players that are nailed for minutes, right? Even more so during this festive period in the next few games and so on. But yeah, I think it is likely, especially for teams like Liverpool, uh, who have a pretty good fit squad right now. All the players fit and available to kind of see rotation. Arsenal and Man City probably not as much because their whole squad is probably
Yeah,
not as fit, right? So yeah, I mean we don't expect to see a lot of rotation for those, but Liverpool potentially. Even I think Connor was also talking about someone like Trippier, right, who has played like literally every game for Newcastle, right, since the last season. But this is going to be the crunch time, right? We This kind of an unprecedented scenario
yeah,
where I think we still need to learn that, right? Like whether Trippier, someone like Trippier, will be able to play all the games or not, right? Their left backs, their defense is already faded, right? Botman has been injured for the last month. Barney is out, right? So
yeah,
it is going to be difficult for them to manage the squad through that. So this and the winter transfer window does not open until January, anyways, right? So they're not going to be able to buy players either. So yeah, that will be interesting. Newcastle will be interesting as well. I know a lot of people are invested in Newcastle defense and so on, especially Trippier being an expensive player. So yeah, that will be interesting as well. But yeah, let's move on to the next plot and we can talk
one
about
thing
the
that I
next.
want to add here for Newcastle, since you talk, right? So they have PSG and Milan, so difficult game basically for UCL, and I guess they will probably out. They'll be probably out of UCL. Probably. I'm just guessing,
Yeah,
because
I
those will
think they
be
have to give up on UCL.
exactly. And
They have
then
not been that good anyways.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then they have Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, right? In the game week between 17 and 18, where
all
they
difficult games.
yeah, and you might expect, okay, they have Fulham and Luton before and after, right? But Chelsea game will be very important for them because if they get out of the UCL, they will think about to have a good run for the Carabao Cup, right? That they have a good chance to get
Right.
a trophy from there. So I guess they will give their best shot over there. So yeah, Newcastle is a tricky one. I agree.
Yeah,
I
but
think
the problem is their injury problem. I mean, if Barn and others are fit, probably we could see some rotation. But the problem is that's also thick over there. I mean,
that's
um,
true. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and
Yeah,
Spurs
but
actually have a good. Yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, yeah. I was going to talk about Spurs and Chelsea. Right, those are the two teams that don't have Europe, right? And also, I
And
think
Brentford,
they
I
have
think.
both are
Yeah,
out of some of the domestic
yeah,
tournaments as well. So there is not a lot of midweek game action for them, right? Both of them. So it is very likely that Tottenham and Chelsea boys will be very popular, especially during this
yeah.
crunch time,
Chelsea
where
playing versus Newcastle in the Carabao Cup quarterfinal. That's but yeah,
yeah,
for the
yeah,
Spurs and Brentford, because we're gonna
yeah,
actually get
Brentford.
Brentford boys soon, right? So we should show
Yeah,
Brentford and Spurs are actually good one. But
yeah.
West Ham also,
The
but yeah,
Christmas game weeks this year also looks very crunched. Like most
yeah,
of the teams have barely 2 days of rest between game week 18, 19, and 20. So that's going to
yeah.
be interesting as well. I know a lot of people are saving their wild card to be played during that time, right? Game week 19 time frame, kind of avoid the blank and attack the double and so on. But that's going to be tricky as well, right? Like would we expect Man City players to play both of those games? So maybe not, right? So that's something to think about as well. Game
Mhm.
week 19 and 20. I mean, Brentford more so, right? As you say, Brentford doesn't have a whole lot of other action going on. But yeah, all right. Let's move on to the next part,
Yep.
and then we can talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this was again also was shown on the FPL radar, FPL OIR port. So a lot of you might already see that. But here actually again, since we are talking about minutes and rotation, so we actually thought to create this plot so that we get some idea, like how many minutes each players are getting, right? Because essentially you want to get those players who are nailed as well as have good underlying data, right? So here we are showing attacker, including both midfielders and forwards. So minutes per appearance along x-axis and along y-axis is non-penalty XGI, so expected goal involvement per 90. Okay, so again, you are familiar with our fourth quadrant chart. So four quadrant chart. So top right quadrant, basically all the players like already popular, right? So and I think a lot of people, most of people already have these players already. So Haaland, Salah, Watkins, Mbumo, right? So Mbumo, a lot of people probably don't have yet, especially those wildcarders in game week 10. But again, he will be, very highly owned either this week or next week, definitely, right? And then comes like Son, Saka, and Madison, right? So again, those are talismans. Madison is one of the unfortunate thing is Madison's injury, right? Overall for Spurs as well as for FPL as well, because we just saw that Spurs fixture actually they don't have like midweek games, or their fixture congestion is not really bad compared to others, right? But they don't have Madison. I mean, it would be good if Madison would be fit, then he could have got Son and Madison like 90 minutes Fox or even Nate. And with Madison, they looked good, right? But again, we'll see how Madison situation goes. But overall, those are the players, and Jackson, as you mentioned, right? I mean, so far he was playing, but after Nkunku returns, we don't know how the situation is gonna be. But so far, his minutes per appearance was like I mean, based on the underlying, he is in the first quarter. Now in the top left, those are the players who actually are explosive, but their minutes were not really at the best. So Wilson and Isak, we already knew, right? They were already very much like injured, right? So as you mentioned at the very beginning, there are probably very few games where both of them played together. But again, Wilson is out, I guess, for a long time, I guess, for the whole Christmas period. And Isak is coming back fit, so which is going to be good for the team. But again, we just saw, right? We just talked about the Newcastle's fixture overall, right? So we don't know how Isak's like situation is going to be during that time, and even whether he'll be fit, right? We just see Newcastle boys get injured every now and then, right? And Darwin Nunes here, right? Although he's in this zone, but again, in last six out of six games, he actually started 5 games, and all of these games, his like minutes was around 84, 85 per start, which is really encouraging, right? So which actually shows also that Darwin is probably the first choice, right? But again, during fixture congestion, you don't know, because if you see the Liverpool boys, right? Diego Jota, Hepco, Diaz, all of them are in this left quadrant, right? So there are 4 players for 2 positions, right? We have been always, always having this dilemma, right? Whom to get. At least Darwin situation, at least we know that he's playing, but we don't know. At least in the moving forward how it's gonna be during the fixture crunch. And then again, Palmer it fell into this category, but he started 6 out of 6 games in the last game, right? And it was all 85 or something like that on average per start. So I think he should be good, and as you mentioned, he should be nailed, right? And he looked really good, So and then I think the bottom right quadrant, those are kind of interesting to me, to be honest. That's because the top right is kind of people already, it's kind of template people already have them. But bottom right, there are several options we can think of, especially for the next fixtures, right? One of them is Bowen. A lot of people already have them, but a lot of people like me and you can't, right? We don't have him. And then Solanke, we just talked about that he's a talisman. Their fixture is turning good as well. So Bowen, Solanke, and then Eze, like Palace's next few fixture, right? So these are couple of players, and then Mitoma, a lot of people have, especially the game week 10 wildcarders, right? But again, because of his injury, and there is always plan shifting from Mitoma to Embumo, so that could be like happening very soon. So yeah, I guess those are the players. Now I would like to bring another discussion, like that okay, if you want to remove some of the players from the top right quadrant, who will do that? But before that, do you want to discuss any other players here, like you think that could be a good shout, especially during the fixture crunch time?
I think you covered most of it. Similar to like Palmer, Aoni, and Wang, they are kind of in the same time zone as well, right? But I mean, minutes wise, but they are going to be potentially more nailed when they're fit, especially, right? We expect Aoni to start most of the games. Same for Wang as well. Even DCL, right? Everton fixtures are kind of mixed, not the best, but when he is fit, we know what DCL can do, right? We have seen that in 2 seasons ago. So with better minutes, even some of them might become options. What is DCL's price? I think 6.4 or something like that, right? Pretty
Uh,
cheap. So if you are
I
in the
think
market
six
for
five.
cheaper, yeah, cheaper forward, I think he could easily become an option. We all know his potential, right? So that those are the kind of things that we have to look out for, right? In general, like player kind of see trends where players who have done well in the past, they're starting to get more minutes. As you mentioned, Darwin, right? He seems to be the first choice forward for Klopp now. So although his average minutes are only 54, 55, but in the future, we expect him to get a lot of minutes. Same for Isak as well when Wilson is out and so on. Right? So yeah, that's the purpose of this plot to kind of identify players who probably haven't had minutes. That's the past data, right? That's the historical data. But can you identify some of those who have actually good underlying and will potentially get good minutes in the future minutes, right? So that is the purpose of this plot. But yeah,
Yeah.
but you mentioned Eze as well, right? I mean, Eze is in my mind. We spoke about this, right? For someone like me who has Mitoma and doesn't have the fund to go to Mbeumo directly, it at least crossed my mind. Can I go to Eze this week? Maybe sacrifice Mbeumo for 1 week. Wait for that, right? Another week, maybe in game week 15, I can get to Mbeumo somehow. But again, there is a little bit of what's that called? The opportunity cost as well, right? There are only so many places in the midfield. Most of us already have Salah, Son, and Saka, so that's three places gone. If you want to own Palmer because he's a very good enabler, right? To fund the players elsewhere in your team. There's four places gone. Then it's only the fifth one spot for all the other good players that we spoke about, right? It's Mbeumo, it's Eze, Mitoma is probably not as good of an option anymore. A lot of people have Diaby, Gordon, right? Gordon is still a pretty good option. He looks like a starter. I think Barnes is back soon, but even so, Gordon looks like a good option. There are just so many good midfielders, right? Even like the likes of Foden, we haven't even spoken about Foden. We all know how good Foden is, right? Maybe not as much in the fixture crunch in the festive period, but yeah, it's just the opportunity cost, right? I don't think we can own everyone. You have to kind of pick your bet and make sure that, or hope basically that you'll get all the points from that player. But yeah, go ahead, Wrangler. You wanted to talk about something else.
Yeah. So I mean, again, as we talked before, right, that our teams are kind of very inflexible, right? So for example, if you have Haaland, Salah, and then Saka and Son, right? And then if you have Mbumo, right, and Palmer, so those players are kind of locked. And then if you have also Watkins, if you think that okay, I'm gonna keep Watkins, especially in game week 18, Villa is playing versus Sheffield United, so that's one problem, right? So you want to keep, and Watkins' underlying data was really good, right? I mean, just previous 12 game weeks just kind of showed me that you have to be patient. I mean, yeah, hop on, hop off, definitely if you can, that's the best. But you have to be patient. You cannot just jump off to from Watkins because he just didn't return, right? So now there are some other, so that's why people are kind of get bored that they are doing mostly like defensive transfer. For me, even I was just doing all the defensive transfer, because my team is so locked. I mean, I'm gonna get Mbumo from Mitoma, and then I have Palmer, and these players are locked. I don't have really any other options to go for, right? Unless I remove one of Watkins or Son or Saka, and then to go for likes of Solanke, Bowen, Eze, right? That you just mentioned. So do you think like it's worth to get rid of one of them, like Watkins, Son, and Saka, and then do some spicy moves like getting Bowen or Solanke or getting Darwin? So for example, if you remove say Saka, right, then you can get Bowen, and you can probably get Solanke too. I mean, I'm just saying, one of this combination because you are just downgrading Son or Saka to Bowen, something like
Bowen
that.
is already
Bowen
7.7
actually is
million.
very expensive. That's
Yeah,
probably a bad example from Saka to Bowen, but again, Son to Bowen, for example,
yeah.
or even removing Watkins to Solanke, right? Or Darwin, right? So that gives you more money to upgrade, say, Palmer to I don't know, Bowen or Eze. So do you think it's worth it to do this move, or what's your thoughts on that? Both of you, or whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, I mean, Son, I have at least thought about getting rid of Son because of his price point, as you mentioned, that it kind of gives you a little more flexibility to kind of attack the fixtures that are upcoming. Right, you can then own both like Mbomo and like Bowen and all the other guys that we have spoken about. Right, so that's a possibility. But again, every time I think of that, I just get afraid because of Son's explosivity. Right, he is probably not as consistent, but when he does, right, he could be like even this game week, right? He's probably the one of the best captaincy options in game week 13. That's what concerns me is Son's explosivity. He can just easily go for that 15-20 pointer in any of the given game weeks. Can I expect that from like an Eze or even like a Bowen? Maybe not as much, right? I cannot rely on them for like an outside captaincy option, etc. I wouldn't be captaining Bowen even if they play like Burnley this game, right? Even I would be comfortable. So that's what basically restricts me from going there. Saka, I don't want to get rid of it yet because Arsenal's long-term fixtures are very good, right? And although he's not the clear talisman, but he's on penalties, right? But even if Arsenal is not playing as well, they get one penalty and then Saka gets like an 11 pointer, right? So that's something that I'm worried about as well. Don't want to get rid of Saka. Watkins potentially, right? That's a good enabling move where you can get funds. But again, Aston Villa are just so much more a better team than Bournemouth, right? Like Villa are scoring 3-4 goals in each of the home games for fun, right? Easily. Whereas Bournemouth are struggling to score 1-2 goals. They had a very good game against Newcastle last game, like really, really well. And they're starting to kind of build their potential under the new coach, right? But still, they're Bournemouth, right? But Aston Villa are just so much more a better team. And Watkins is 100% nail per minutes, right? I mean, with respect to the likes of Darwin, Isak, etc., right? He is just the 90-minute man in general, right? That's why I don't like it. And also, I think game week 18, Villa has a good picture, right? Sheffield, or if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Sheffield
So that
at home
that
even.
at home. So that is a blank game week. He's a potential captaincy option in that game week as well, with Haaland blanking and so on. At Haaland and
And
Mbeumo
Liverpool
blanking.
and Arsenal playing each other. So yeah.
Liverpool, Arsenal play each other. So that's something that also kind of is in the back of my mind. Uh, that's probably the only reason that I'm not even thinking of getting rid of Watkins. So actually, two reasons. One is that he's 100% nailed, and second is the game week 18 fixture. So yeah, it is difficult. It's very difficult. As you said, it's very inflexible right now with like kind of those 5 or 6 players, and we don't even have Trippier, right? So most of us, ZD, do you still own Trippier?
Yeah, I have.
Right? Yeah, you do. So we don't. You are of course going to get Haaland soon, but you'll probably still have. But you basically have to sacrifice one of those
Yeah,
five
you
or
need to
six players,
sacrifice
right?
someone.
Yeah, at least one of those 5 or 6 players that we spoke about: Haaland, Salah, Saka, Son, Watkins, and Trippier. Right? Those are the 6 kind of premium players that we all have or we all want to own. So it's very difficult to own all of them. It's a difficult.
I think it will be a good audition for these three players probably for many of FPL player like next
Mhm.
two game weeks to check out Son, Saka, and Watkins like how they are performing, right? I mean, obviously
Yeah,
you have to make some move, otherwise there is no move eventually,
right.
right? So over there probably, I mean, Watkins fixtures turning little bit bad, although he has a good fixture in game week 18.
Mhm.
Son's fixture is mix of bag. The thing is how Tottenham is going to structure, like if are they going to bring Bandakur, I mean like some attacking option in the midfield. In that
Right.
case probably Son is going to be better, but other
Yep.
again, if he does not get supply, how can he cannot goal solely all the time, right? So that's a argument over there. But and Saka, I think he's just he was probably playing a little bit cautious because of injuries, but you never know, probably he might do some like good return in next two game weeks. So I g- I feel like probably we need to be patient a little bit, like next two game weeks at least, and then we can make a decision, because you have to probably make a compromise somewhere, otherwise you uh, we don't see any move,
Yeah.
right?
You're just stuck. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, good point. Let me tell whatever I think. Since I mean, I brought up this question and I thought about it. So as you mentioned, I agree with all of the points actually. Like Salah and Haaland locked for me. Mbumo locked for me too. At least although he has blank, but the fixture that he has and he's like he's a lock. So these three. Son is a lock for me too, and one of the reasons is the fixture that we mentioned, right? The fixture congestion. Spurs will not be affected by that. So I wanted to have that, and again, medicine is not there, so at least penalty wise, they didn't get any penalty yet. So if they get penalty, I think Son will be there, right? So that's why Son is locked for me too. And although he's playing versus like Man City in game week, I think 14 or 15, that's a good game for him, right? We saw like versus I think Liverpool and also versus Arsenal, he scored goals, right? And those are good games for him, right? Usually, those teams that played high line is favorable for him. Saka, again, as you mentioned, if he gets penalty, he's gonna be in 10 or 11 points. And Jesus and Odegaard are coming back, which is a plus for him too, I guess, right? So, and again, Palmer, I don't want to remove because Chelsea's fixture is coming good, right? Now, these five are kind of locked. Now, Watkins, maybe, but if I remove Watkins, I mean, who am I gonna get? I mean, am I gonna get Isak or Darwin? Maybe, but again, I mean, 90 minutes guy, right? And again, they're playing Man City and Arsenal, right? I guess in game week 14 and 15, I think Bournemouth in 15 and then 16 Arsenal, I think. And those are home games, and those are actually again favorable game for Arsenal, Villa, by the way, because at home they are playing good, and highlines are good for them too, right? For Villa, for Watkins as well, right? So that's why I kind of, yeah, definitely I'm flexible enough, that I will definitely react. But so far I'm thinking, they are hold for me. If I need to make transfer in the defense, I'll do. It's okay for me. That's where I am at so far right now. Okay. All right, anything to add here before I move into the
Just
defender chart? Okay,
Oh,
let's move on to the defender chart. You know, say something there, Gigi?
no, I wanted to say probably by game week 16 we'll have a Sterling option again. I mean, he's very explosive as well, and
Yeah,
Chelsea's picture is going to good. So I mean,
I'd be
that is
probably
the
more
main.
interested with Nkunku if he
Mm.
returns. But yeah, because
yeah,
if
Sterling and Kunko, I think,
yeah.
yeah, all of the
Okay, so again, we did kind of similar thing for defender as well. So along x-axis it's a minute, and along y-axis, so along x-axis actually it's total minutes, and along y-axis we did again expected FPL points per 90. The reason we did expected FPL points because for defender, not only attacking returns like XGI is important, the clean sheet is important too, right? So XGI will not gonna capture the clean sheet potential for each team, while expected FPL points will capture both like teams underlying XCS as well as players or defenders like underlying for XGI too, right? So here again we see in the top right quadrant more minutes good underlying, where Cash, Trippier, White, Pedro Porro, Saliba, well, right. One name I see actually Walker. Really, I got really surprised whenever I saw Walker here. He started every game, 12 games. He played 90 minutes in all the games, on the PL games for Man City, which is really surprising. This guy, we were thinking he's going to go out of City, and then he became the captain and he started all the games, right? So he's nailed so far, but again, during the festive period, we don't know how is it going to be. Pep will be there, but again, so far he's nailed, right? Top left, Chilwell is injured, so nothing to talk about. Ake, I guess again there will be Pep roulette there, so I guess not. I'm not very interested at least. Zinchenko is a good shout, right? Zinchenko, I guess Estupinan as well. If he is fit, but again we saw in general Brighton's um, like team is not very functional so far, and again Estupinan's absence is playing and having effect there too. But uh, something like if Esteban comes back fit, then something to be excited about defender, right? And Botman definitely, right? If he's fit, this situation is not still clear, right? How whether he will need surgery or not, how long he's gonna be out. But again, Botman is there, right? So and then players like Lascelles, right? Because Botman was injured, so Lascelles is in the bottom left. But again, he started all the 6 games in absence of Botman, right? So if Botman is out for a long time, then Lascelles is gonna is move towards right. right? So it's going to be more minutes for him, and he's playing for a good team like Newcastle. Now, how they will perform during the fixture congestion, that's something to see. But again, Lascelles could be a good option. Lascelles could be a good option if Botman is out. Gabriel is one player to talk about. We can come or revisit to this player later. But otherwise, I think some other players I mean I'm really excited about in the future game weeks, especially the Chelsea boys like Thiago Silva, Disasi, and Colwill. And please, Kante, I would like to actually have your insights on this. And then Pinnock or even Edger from Brentford could be a good shot if you think to um, free hit in game week 18 especially. Then Brentford's fixture before game week 18 and after 19 is good, so Pinnock could be a good shout. And Fabian Schär, right? Because so far he's been nailed. So what's your thoughts about all these defenders in the fixture congestion time, and Gabriel and also Chelsea boys? What do you think?
Yeah, for Chelsea, I think Colville is the standout pick. He's playing left back. He even got a attacking return a few weeks ago. Uh, I don't think it's even a matter of debate. He just is the better defensive asset in general, unless you, of course, you want to go for someone like Reece James, right? He did come out like a couple days ago, saying that he's taking care of his health better. He thinks that he's feeling better. I mean, of course, it can doesn't necessarily mean anything. He can get injured again, but he is always there, right? He's now like 5.2 million or something like that. So he's a lot cheaper
I think
than the
5.3,
beginning
I
of the
think.
season. 5.3 million. So yeah, he is an option potentially, but in general, all in all, and we spoke about this like fixture crunch and everything. Fixtures coming pretty fast. I would be very strong about Colville as the one defensive option from Chelsea. I don't think you necessarily want to double up because we already spoke about Palmer is already there, and Kunku, Starling, etc. could be option as well. So for if you want to pick one defender, I think it has to be Colville. For Gabriel, I think he is more nailed than not. I mean, people overreact, of course. He got his rest, right, because he had a lot of accumulated minutes in that one game. But in general, I think he's more nailed than not. I don't think Arteta will play your game after game over someone like Gabriel, right? He's still the first choice center back for Arsenal. So yeah, at least that's my thought on Gabriel, that he will start more often than not. Another player, I mean, you also spoke about him, Zinchenko. The first time I look at this chart, there are two players that kind of stood out. One is Zinchenko and one is Colville, right? Because of course of the fixtures and everything. But I think Arsenal double up defense is a good option this year, right? I mean, we looked at the data, their underlying attacking data doesn't look as impressive as last season. Their defensive data actually looks a lot better than last season, right? So if you want to double up for the longer term, it's an okay thing to do, either with Saliba, Gabriel, or Zinchenko, two of them, whichever two of them you want to pick. White, I don't know what's happening with him, right? He got injured for the last game or something in play, but I don't think we have heard anything since then, what the situation is. But yeah, generally speaking, I think Zinchenko is the first choice left back when he is fit, because that helps Arteta too with his game plan and everything else. He did score a goal in the last game as well. I mean, that's not going to happen every game, but in general, he's pretty involved as well. So yeah, Zinchenko is someone that I do have in mind for the longer term. Another player that I have in mind is bringing back Pedro Porro. We did talk about Spurs as well, right? They don't have Europe, they don't have a lot of domestic uh, activities as well. So Porro is another defender that I'm potentially looking to get back in the future game sometime. I think he's pretty nailed right now, unlike last season, right, where he was competing with Emerson Royal. This season, he is the clear-cut first choice at right back, right, whenever he is fit. So yeah, but those are the defenders that I have in mind for the upcoming games.
Okay. So one question is, do you think so? It's not worth it to spend zero point 0.4 million extra to get Thiago Silva, right, from Colville? Okay,
No.
okay. Zidi, question to you. So, what's your thoughts about Cash? Do you think you're gonna keep him because basically, like, we talked before, right? That Villa is playing versus Sheffield in 18. So, what's your thoughts about Cash? I think you have already Cash, right? So, are you planning to sell him or carry him
Mm,
till coming 18?
no,
What's your thoughts so far?
I'm planning to actually keep him right now because seems like clean sheet is harder to get, and the fixtures, like if I sell cash this week, I mean all the defenders have bad week. Rather, cash might get an attacking return. Who knows? So, I mean, if you see here, yeah, expected point wise, cash is higher, and his goal, he's more attacking. So. Um, Although they have game with Man City and other, but I think
Absolutely.
I feel like I'll hold cash probably because one option could be say if I have money move to Saliba, but the thing is Saliba is already 5.4 and um, I've I, Saliba scored, but still I mean I feel like it's spending. mm, little bit more money. I mean cash is little bit more aggressive, right? So that's why and also they have good game in game week 18, like if I don't play free hit, so
Mhm.
for me cash could be on hold because anyway we are not seeing that many clean sheets. So cash can get some odd like can get some assist or like some goal. Like last game as well, I saw he was in good space, although he did not get the ball. So feels like um, with my structure, I might keep him. I mean,
Okay.
rather than selling. One
Yeah.
option could be selling cash and getting Taylor or like say Lazarus, but you know don't know what will
Now
happen
we
with
have to assess
those.
more.
Yeah, yeah. So in that sense, probably I'll just keep cash for now. That's what my thought.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me actually, like I have two free transfer, and fortunately, I mean, like Mitoma situation became a little bit like a little bit different, right? Because he got injured, so that's good for me now because now I can do probably like take Mitoma Mbuma 1 week early. Otherwise, I'd be in really trouble or doubt like what should I really do because I have two free transfer. Either I burn it or remove cash, and my only I mean, one name I can just think of is Pedro Porro, as Kante mentioned. I think if I remove cash, I'll probably get Pedro Porro at the same price point, and I think his Spurs fixture and his attacking number. I think that's a player I like to replace cash as of now. I'm so far, to be honest, I'm not very hot on Arsenal. I mean, I already have Gabriel, but I don't want to double up with them because I mean their next fixture is Brentford away, and then Wolves home, Luton away, Aston Villa away, Brentford, and Liverpool. I'm not really sure how many clean sheets they're gonna have. I mean, Gabriel and Saliba. I mean, Zinchenko is different case because he might have attacking return. Although Saliba scored a goal from set pieces last week, but last game week. But again, I'm not very confident about it. So Brentford away, I'm not really sure it's gonna be a clean sheet. Also doing good. Luton away is not an easy game either. Aston Villa away, and then again Brighton and Liverpool. So I don't see many clean sheets here to be honest. So that's why I'm not thinking to double up. At least that's my thought so far on that. So, but yeah, their underlying was so good. So yeah, we'll see how it. All right, so let's move on to the last discussion. It's been already 1 hour 20 minutes or so. So this is a game week 13 attacking matchup. So basically, you see, let's just game week 13's different teams XG and their opponent XGC, essentially to show the matchup, right? That which team has good attacking matchup in the next game week, and we're gonna bring the captaincy discussion here as well, right? So as you can see, this is one of the game weeks where we don't have really very good matchups in terms of like popular assets, right? So we don't see many teams in the even there is no team actually in the like top right quadrant, right? We have only Everton, and unfortunately it's versus Man United, right? So but I guess Man City is playing versus Liverpool, right? So that's probably one favorable fixture, but again, there could be a goal galore there. There might not be. We'll see. Man City has been playing sometimes boring these times, right? Especially since they don't have Kevin De Bruyne, they're not getting a lot of chances, so that's why they're playing controlled game. They're making it. They've actually made even Brighton boring, right? In the last whenever they met last time. So yeah, I think there are not clear cut captaincy shout here, right? So what's your thought here, ZD? First, I would like to hear from you.
Mm, I mean, this week very difficult. I think I was hoping to give Son from probably 3 4 game week, and it was the target fixture all the time. I think it might be. I mean, still, if Spurs scores, and obviously I think Son should be involved, so he could be a good shout for this week. And other than that, I think obviously Liverpool and City, it's not going to be a 0-0, of course. So I think Haaland or Salah, uh, probably being it is at home, so Haaland will be more favorable. If I had Haaland, I was thinking to bring him and captain him. So I mean, for me, these three, I think Haaland has like little bit injury scar, but I think it will be all right, right? He should start. This is an important game for them, and
And we might get
uh,
some leak as well. So which
yeah,
is
we
this is the
should.
first is the early kickoff. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think Son, Haaland, Salah, although it's a tough fixture, but they should score, right? I mean, Salah have been scoring like last 4 times against Man City, so he's a good captain option as well. But probably the problem is we might not see multiple returns. But again, it's very difficult week to pinpoint. Some shout was like about Bowen. I had Bowen. I was thinking about him, but again there is some injury rumor, like he came back from England. uh, so but again it could be possibly to give him to protect him, because Anthony is injured as well for a long time. So but probably I won't go there. It would be Son, Haaland, uh, or Salah, any of them.
Yeah, I think West Ham fan FPL fella actually tweeted today that probably Bowen is fine.
Yeah,
Um,
he's expecting today or tomorrow he will Bowen will have
yeah.
a scan.
So Kanta, you're also on Haaland right now in terms of captaincy.
Yeah, I'm between Haaland and Son. Unfortunately, the Man City fixture is the early kickoff Gandhi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not, I mean, in general, I would at home I would always back Haaland and Man City. But again, we looked at the data, right? They
Mm-hmm.
haven't been that like aggressive at home games in general, and this is Liverpool. Liverpool has have improved defensively this season as well. So yeah, it is could be a tight game. Hard to call it. I think I'm still kind of 50-50 between Son and Haaland, to be
So
honest.
if you hear that Haaland is not starting, you will give captaincy to Son, right?
Oh yeah, if Haaland is not starting 100%, so yeah,
Okay, so
no
you're
doubt.
not thinking about Salah at all.
No, no, no.
Okay.
I'm not captaining Salah against Man City away from him. No.
Okay. Yeah, right now my captaincy actually on Son because I whenever I got Son in game week 13, game week 10, as if you remember, right? I was very like confused between Bo and Alvarez combination compared to Son, right? So one of the main reason I got San was definitely, yeah. I mean, you guys convinced me as well as he's playing out of position and getting a lot of runs, right. And game week 13 captaincy option, that was one of the
Mm.
reasons as well. So my captaincy is on him, but I mean again 50-50. Um, Salah, sorry, basically Haaland and Son right now. Not thinking about Salah as of now, at least. But yeah, Bowen actually. I mean, I don't have Bowen, but I even didn't think about it to captain. To be honest, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, one completely out of the box shout is Solanke. Uh, as the
Sheffield,
chart
right?
also suggests, right,
Yeah,
they literally play against the worst defense. So if someone owns Solanke, if you want to go there, this is probably not the worst week to take a chance with captaincy.
yeah.
again, I mean, Sheffield is really, really poor, and I think Bournemouth is at home, if I'm not wrong, right? Against
Yeah.
so they did show signs of improving against Newcastle. They actually outplayed Newcastle throughout
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
game. So I wouldn't necessarily mind going there if someone already owns
I think it's
someone.
an away game.
Is it? Yeah,
Yeah, it's an away
yeah.
game.
It's an away game to
Even so,
Sheffield. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Still.
even so,
Yeah.
yeah, even so, it's a good game. It's a good matchup in general.
Yeah. It's just like like Sparks' recent injury just put me off from Son a little bit. I mean, it's just like I'm not
Yeah,
sure. So that's
I'm still
yeah.
okay. I mean, you don't expect like two, three, four returns, right? As long as he gets one return, which he
Yes.
can easily get, and Villa does play a pretty high line, right? So
Yeah.
you would expect Son to get behind once. So
Yeah.
there
In
is
any
a higher
case.
probability to mm, have him do that than
Yeah.
not. So yeah, I would take that chance. I think. So
Exactly. So in any case, like we talked before, right? That is parts like except I think the Burnley game, they don't score a lot of goals even, right? So their
mm,
highest XG was 2, right? But I mean, it's gonna be Son. If there is only 1 or 2 goals, it's gonna be probably Son, right? So
right,
definitely getting the chances. And although like he blanked 7 times out of 12 games, right? Son, but again, he got 4 double-digit returns, right?
mm,
So he has that explosiveness. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. So, but yeah, I think between Son and Haaland, I think that's where we are at, right? Okay.
all right.
I think we are done here. Anything to add?
Yeah, let's call it a day. We have already spent about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Hopefully it was useful for everyone.
yeah,
Thanks everyone for joining here with us. I don't think we are going to be able to do another preview video, unfortunately, because of timing issues. But we'll try to come back after Game Week 13, if possible. So until unless if we don't see you, have best of luck for the upcoming game week and for the rest of the season. Thank you, ZD, and thank you, Wrangler, for all the hard work and for being here with us today. We'll see you soon.
yep. Enjoy your trip.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.